Alright, so this is my review of the TTR 230, year 2015, but this is the review of it after it has been uncorked and re-geared. And, you know, I explain what that means in my other videos, but basically all you're doing when you're uncorking and re-gearing is you're taking the power that the engine already has, or you're taking the power that the bike already has, and you're basically unlocking its potential. By uncorking, is all you're doing is you're opening up the air box and opening up the exhaust so that the bike can breathe more freely. And then you compensate by you know, changing the jets in the carburetor so that the air fuel mixture is still correct. That's all it takes to uncork the bike. And re-gearing, is all you're doing is you're redistributing how the power is transferred to the rear wheel. Alright, and I explained that in my video about you know, changing sprockets and what it means to re-gear a bike. So this is my review based on the uncorked and re-geared version of the TTR 230. So basically, I think it's a great bike. It has more power than I'm probably ever going to use, because all I'm doing is I'm riding around in trails. You know, I'm riding around the woods, hitting train tracks, crossing over little creeks and rivers or whatnot. Not super deep rivers or anything, but you know, to get from one spot to the next, sometimes you have to cross little patches of water. Sometimes you have to go up big hills. You know, it can do all that stuff. I hang out with guys that ride 2-strokes. I hang out with guys that ride 250 4-strokes. This bike, as far as woods riding goes, it can do, you know, anything that those guys can do. The only thing it might not be able to do is, you know, if it came down to it and we hit a flat ground out in the street and we raced, they would probably beat me. But after uncorking this thing and re-gearing it, this thing is pretty damn fast. It pretty much keeps up with everyone else. You know, it's by no means a slow bike. So yeah, things I like about this bike is I'm 5'10", or 5'11", somewhere in between 5'10" and 5'11", and this bike is actually the perfect size for me. I can sit down and have both of my feet touching the ground, but it's still not too small. You know, it's basically when my feet are touching the ground, but my knees are pretty much straightened out. Just about the right seat height. Other bikes that I tried out, some of the bigger bikes were a little bit too big for me. The only way my feet were able to touch the ground is if my, you know, I was on my tiptoes or something like that. So that's that. Another thing I like is it has the electric start. Unfortunately, there's no kick start for the backup, but it does have a spot down here, if you can see that, where it says kicks. You see where it says that? It says kickstart. So if you wanted to add a kickstart, you could. I don't know how much work that would actually involve, but you could, if you wanted to, put a kickstart in here. I don't really think it's worth it because the electric start works fine. Kickstarts are nice because it's nice knowing that if your battery ever died, you could kick it over. But worst case scenario, you can always bump start the bike, and if the battery ever died, you could still always do that. So basically, there's not really too much else to say about this bike other than it's everything that you're ever going to read about it. Says that the bike is built like a tank. It's pretty low maintenance. I mean, obviously you got to do basic maintenance on the bike. You're going to have to lube your chain. You're going to have to change your tires, you know, when they get bald. You're going to have to do, change your oil, make sure you're keeping clean gas in there at all times. If the bike sits for a while, you know, you're going to have to clean out the carburetor if it gets a little clogged up. But that's basic stuff with any bike. But as far as, you know, engine or clutch or, you know, bigger things going, everything that you read about this bike, it's very low maintenance. You know, you're not really going to have breakdowns on the trails. It's basically just built like a tank. And I think the reason for that is because it's not a super high performance engine. It's an engine. It's a powerful engine. It goes pretty damn fast. but it's not a super high performance engine that is going to require extra maintenance. So that's another reason I like this bike. Yeah, and when you uncork the bike, I personally decided to go with an aftermarket exhaust. I got the big gun, but everything that I've read says that you can experience pretty similar power gains just by using the stock exhaust and drilling out the spark arrestor and removing the baffle, and of course doing the airbox mod. If you wanted to spend some extra money, you could go with some aftermarket exhaust like I did. The main reason I did that is because I was looking for the aftermarket exhaust sound. But yeah, I mean, pretty much you can spend $50 or less and have the bike completely unlocked, quote unquote unlocked, meaning that you're not actually giving it any more power. Is all you're doing is unlocking the power that the bike already has. And trust me, the bike has plenty of power. The bike can pull wheelies in first, second, and third gear. It's just, I see no reasons for me ever needing more power anytime in the near future. The only reason I would ever find myself upgrading to a new bike is if I decided to, you know, if I was going to start hitting the motocross tracks and hitting jumps and stuff like that. The suspension on these bikes isn't really built for those kind of jumps. But as far as trail riding and riding on the streets to get from one spot to the next and hitting the train tracks and going up hills and blah, 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 this bike can do anything that any other bike can. And it requires low maintenance, less maintenance than the other bikes. So, basically, I'm going to give it a quick start up. It's freezing out right now. My hands are freezing. It's probably about 30 degrees out. The bike has not been started since yesterday. So this is a full cold start. Completely cold in the cold start. And as you know, with carbureted bikes, you know, it takes a little while for a bike to warm up once it's cold. But after doing the uncorking mod that I did, it warms up way faster than it did in the stock version. So let me give it a start up real quick. Just pull the choke out here, turn the ignition on. So that's with the choke fully out. See how quick that's warming up? Fully cold start. Choke's almost all the way in. Still has a little bit more to go, but you know, the bike really has no startup time, or no warm-up time really necessary. You know, when you first get the bike and it's stock, it takes about 10 minutes of running with the choke on before you can even turn the choke off. Now that it's rejetted and uncorked, the bike it warms up very quickly. So let me see if I can turn the choke all the way off yet. Nope, still not yet. Just sounds a lot better when it's opened up like how I did and with that exhaust on. But yeah, if I was to do a review of this bike stock, it would be a negative review. I would think that it's a wimpy little girly bike that sounds wimpy and goes really slow. But after you uncork it and you re-gear it, the bike's pretty friggin' powerful. More powerful than anything I'm ever gonna need anytime soon. So, would I buy this again? Absolutely. Oh, and one other thing, it's half the price of other bikes. Because I bought this bike new, I spent $4,000 on it. Every other bike that is in the shop, a non-trail bike, you know, the race bikes, they start at $8,000. So this bike is half the price, and it does everything that I need it to do. So, would I buy this again? Absolutely. And if I were to buy another one of these, the first thing I would do is I would uncork it and re-gear it. I think the bike is crap until you do that. Once you do that, the bike is freaking awesome. That's just my opinion. That's my review of the TTR 230.